Okay, so this is hour 3 of the processing workshop at Notacon. So we've done FFT, we've done synesthesia, so now you know how to make a Winamp fizz. So the next thing we're going to do is the more VJ-style performance-oriented thing. So this is, it's sort of rock band, because you're going to be hitting buttons and you're controlling stuff. Now, the motivation for this is that CPU-based detection of many aspects of music is a complete failure. It's very hard to know that, say, you're in a minor key by having a computer look at something, or that you've just changed from a major to a minor key, and there's been a mood change. The song's gone to a sad place, or maybe that you've gone from the chorus into the verse. That's something that's just intuitive for us, but that's very, very, very hard to put into an automated system, and I don't think it would be worth watching, even if you could make that work. So even the simple things like beat detection. Beat detection sort of works, and you can always make beat detection work for your favorite song, but then you throw a different song at it. Maybe it has a different percussion style, or its levels are different, and it'll fail completely. So that's the big motivation for doing this. Also, if you're doing a live gig, you're there all night anyway. You may as well be hitting a button on the beat. It's not that hard. Second point with this, passing the Turing test. Art's interesting when it's made by something with a soul. And computers without souls can make art, but if it's just the same thing over and over again, that's not interesting. That loses interest. And if it doesn't catch what you're experiencing, that's not interesting either. So if you know, art is the expression of one person's emotions through a medium, or to affect another person. So that's the other thing. Another thing with this, location-specific details. So in some places, the brightness levels are all weird, or the projector is aiming at the wrong place, or the music is different than you expect. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to be in direct control of what's going on, and not try to make some system that goes in as a fault. It's fun. Some big thing, just to start off this whole concept of direct control. VJs have been doing music stuff for decades. And what they've learned is that if you flash the screen white on like a hi-hat or a snare, and you change the camera angle on a kick drum, then people love that. And if that's all you do, then you're flying. And every single one of these things you've done, all the stuff you've been playing around with so far, if you add camera moves and white flashes, then people will love it and they'll enjoy watching it. Okay, so digital, because it's with your fingers. Okay. The code example to use with this, we'll get to it later. I forget the exact name, but if there's different ways to do input. The simplest thing for everyone is the keyboard. You can use, the number 1 for a snare, 2 for kick, 3 for hi-hat or whatever. And so for firing events, like drum events, that just works. And I've done that in shows and it's just fine. It's one digression here. If your computer is matte black like mine, or its keys aren't lit from underneath, then it's very hard to see what's going on. And it really pays to have a little flashlight with you. Or buy a machine that has underlit keys. They're not really that expensive, but lights are also very cheap. And they're a little, I have a thing here. This costs like $10. It's an LED. This is powered by USB power. So you put this over your keyboard. There's very little light that comes out of these, but in an environment like a bar where it's completely black anyway, this will be enough light for you to tell which key is number 1 and which key is number 2. Another way of controlling stuff is through joystick buttons. I have my favorite joystick here, the NASA Advantage, converted to be a USB joystick. This thing's awesome.
Nice.
So this is totally enough to do, snares and kick drums, and any other control you want. These are also buttons as well. And what's nice about this, for people who remember this joystick, is that it's got an auto repeat turbo button that has a tuner. So if you want to have something fired really fast, you can just hold this and crank it up and down, and you've got that for free. But The Pro Control library for processing will work with any joystick. So you can plug in the Xbox joystick. It's just a USB device. You can take whatever Logitech joystick you've got, anything you can hold in your hand. It's got buttons. This thing will pull the input off of it. It'll also get the axes, so you can use those to drive whatever you're doing after that. The best and my favorite method is MIDI devices. So the library and processing for this, and it's in the libraries package, it's called the MIDI bus. So this lets you use things like Korg. Korg's a music company, they make keyboards and shit. So this is their drum pad. This is the mini version of their drum pad. So these all have, when you hit these send a MIDI packet, a message, a note on. And they tell you how hard you hit it, and which one you hit. And this is a little XY control surface. They've also got like a drum roll thing, so you can hit one of these and then it'll just auto-repeat. This is really nice for drums, and for finger drumming it's this or the Akai, it's the other brand. It's got a slightly different feel, and it's really slick. The MIDI device I like, this one has knobs and sliders. These are really good for tuning things like sensitivity or brightness, and these are cheap. So MIDI devices are another input method you can use, and like any MIDI device that has a USB, MIDI over USB sort of connection, you can use that. So if you've got a $1,000 keyboard you want to use for this stuff, you can do that. Another way to do beat or event detection and input is touchscreens. I almost got one of these. There's like a secondary monitor thing that's also a touchscreen. You can touch it and you can put a whole bunch of controls all over it with those, but they're expensive. I'm a proud iPod owner, but I really advise against this IPCC thing. I think it's iPod something control. The concept here is that you expose your iPod or iPhone as a control surface, and it sends messages over the network to your computer at your gig. Now, any wireless network is a hostile network, and there's nothing more fun than fucking up the guy who's performing. Nothing. So I really strongly advise against doing this. I advise against turning on your wireless card at all when you're performing, because people will fuck you up and you'll cry. And if you are performing for money, it's not just your reputation, but it's also your paycheck that's on the line. If your machine is, well, taken over, or it's virus on it, or if the performance is just interrupted. So I really advise against doing this. If you had like a crossover cable and you had a wired connection, you're okay, then you could sort of do networky things, but that wouldn't work with the IPCC thing. I know a lot of people like IPCC. They talk a lot about it.